Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive
That's right.
into some really cool English vocabulary.
Yeah.
Today, we are going deep.
We go deep.
I mean, really deep.
Deep.
We're looking at words 541 to 570 from Group 19 of the Oxford 5000.
Yes.
So
That's right.
this is a list that's really important for advanced English learners.
It is.
And, you know, I remember when I first started learning English,
Uh-huh.
I used to think that like a big vocabulary was all about using the longest, most complicated words I could find.
Oh, yeah.
And let's just say it led to some pretty awkward moments.
Yeah.
But I've learned that true fluency is about using the right words.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think this group of words is a great example of that.
Okay.
They're not necessarily flashy or anything,
Right.
but incredibly useful in everyday conversation and writing.
Awesome. So
Let's jump in.
let's jump in.
What's our first word?
Our first word is diminish.
Diminish. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I have a general idea.
Like when something gets smaller
Uh-huh.
or weaker.
Yes.
But I'm sure there's more to it than that.
You're on the right track.
Okay.
It implies a gradual decrease or reduction in size, intensity, or importance.
Okay.
So, for example, you might say, the pain in her shoulder diminished after taking the medicine.
Ah, so it's not just about something getting smaller,
Right.
but the process of it kind of fading away.
Exactly.
What are some other examples?
You could say, talking about a company's profits, the company's profits have diminished over the past year due to increased competition.
Okay.
Or thinking about a historical event, the power of the Roman Empire diminished over centuries.
I see. So it can be used for like physical things, but also for abstract concepts like power or influence.
Absolutely.
That's really useful to know.
Yeah.
What's our next word?
Let's move on to dip.
Dip.
Now, this has a couple of different meanings, so context is key here.
Ooh, I love when words have multiple personalities.
Exactly.
Makes them more interesting.
It does. So firstly, dip can mean to briefly submerge something into liquid.
Okay.
So, for example, she dipped her toe into the pool to test the water temperature.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What's the other meaning?
It can also describe a downward movement followed by an upward movement.
Okay.
So you might say the road dips down into the valley, then climbs back up.
So it's like a temporary drop.
Yes.
Not a permanent decline.
Exactly.
But a little detour downwards.
Yes.
What about a third example?
The stock market experienced a slight dip before recovering.
Dip. It's like a little roller coaster ride for words.
It is.
Okay. Ready for our next vocabulary challenge?
I think you are.
Okay.
Diplomat.
Diplomat.
Yeah.
Now, this one definitely conjures up images for me.
Okay.
I'm picturing someone in a fancy suit negotiating peace treaties in a grand hall.
You're definitely picking up on the right vibe.
Okay.
So a diplomat is an official representative of a country,
Right.
often working in an embassy
Okay.
or at the United Nations, skilled in negotiation, communication, and maintaining relationships between countries.
So being a diplomat isn't just about knowing the right words,
Right.
but also about understanding different cultures and perspectives.
Absolutely.
It sounds like a challenging but rewarding job.
Yes.
What's an example of a diplomat in action?
You could say the diplomat worked tirelessly to resolve the conflict between the two nations.
Okay, so they're like the peacemakers on the international stage.
Yes.
What are some other ways we might hear diplomat used?
You might read in a news article the diplomats from both countries met to discuss trade agreements.
Okay.
Or she dreamed of becoming a diplomat and representing her country on the world stage.
It sounds like a diplomat needs to be incredibly tactful
Uh-huh.
and diplomatic,
Yeah.
which, speaking of, is our next word.
It
Is
is.
it safe to say diplomatic is related to diplomat?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Well, a diplomat is a specific job.
Right.
Diplomatic describes a quality,
Okay.
the ability to handle sensitive situations with tact and skill. So you might say someone is diplomatic if they can smooth over a disagreement without causing offense.
So it's about being a master of words and understanding how to use them effectively.
Yes.
What are some situations where being diplomatic would be helpful?
Imagine you're giving feedback to a coworker on a project.
Okay.
You might say she delivered her criticism in a diplomatic way, so it was well received.
Okay. So being diplomatic doesn't mean sugarcoating things.
Right.
But finding the right words to be both honest and respectful.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
What are some other ways diplomatic might be used?
You could say the two parties reached a diplomatic solution that satisfied everyone involved.
Okay.
Or he took a diplomatic approach to the negotiations, avoiding any confrontational language.
I think we could all use a bit more diplomacy in our lives.
I think so too.
All right, ready to tackle our next word.
Let's explore directory.
Directory.
Yeah.
That makes me think of those big old phone books.
Yes.
Used to be in every household.
Uh-huh.
Are those even still a thing?
You're right. Phone books were the classic example of a directory.
Right.
But the word still holds relevance in the digital age.
Okay.
So a directory is any system that organizes information in a structured way, making it easy to find what you need.
Okay, so it's all about organization and accessibility.
Exactly.
What are some examples of directories that we might encounter today?
Think about the internet.
No.
You might say the websites directory made it easy to navigate to different sections.
Ah, so the menu on a website could be considered a directory.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are some other examples?
Think about your computer files.
Okay.
I organized my files into a clear directory system so I could easily find what I needed.
Uh-huh.
Or in a business context, the company's directory lists the contact information for all employees.
So directory is all about bringing order to chaos.
It is.
Whether it's online, on our computers, or even in a large organization.
That's right.
Pretty useful.
It is.
Okay. Ready for our next word.
Let's move on to disability. This is an important word, and it's crucial to use it thoughtfully and respectfully.
I agree. I'm ready to learn.
So disability refers to a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities.
Right.
It's important to remember that everyone's experience with disability is unique.
Right.
And the word encompasses a wide range of conditions.
That's a really important point. So it's not about defining someone
Right.
by their disability,
Exactly.
but understanding how it might impact their life
Yes.
and how we can be supportive and inclusive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for example, you might say the new building was designed to be accessible to people with disabilities.
Okay, so that's an example of how we can use language to promote inclusivity.
Uh-huh.
What are some other ways disability might be used?
Imagine you're talking about government programs.
Okay.
You might say the government provides financial assistance to people with disabilities.
Okay.
Or the athlete overcame his disability to become a Paralympic champion, inspiring people around the world.
Those are all really powerful examples. Thanks for helping us understand that word with sensitivity.
Of course.
What's up next?
Our next word is disabled, which is simply the adjective form of disability.
Okay.
It's used to describe someone who has a disability.
Okay, so it's a descriptor, not a defining characteristic.
Exactly.
What are some examples of how to use disabled correctly and respectfully?
Think about parking spaces.
Okay.
You might say the parking space is reserved for disabled drivers.
Got it.
Or when talking about veterans, the organization provides support for disabled veterans.
So it's important to use disabled in a way that focuses on the person first, not their disability.
Precisely. We want to use language that promotes understanding and respect for all individuals.
Well said. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our next word.
Okay.
Disagreement.
Disagree?
I have a feeling I know this one.
Okay.
It's when people have different opinions, right?
That's the essence of it.
Okay.
Disagreement refers to a difference of opinion
Uh-huh.
or clash of views. It can be as simple as disagreeing on what to have for dinner,
Right.
or as complex as a political debate.
So it covers a pretty wide spectrum of situations.
It does.
Can you give us some examples of how disagreement might play out in real life?
Imagine you're in a meeting at work.
Okay.
You might say there was a strong disagreement among the team members about the best marketing strategy.
Okay, so a clash of ideas
Yeah.
in a professional setting.
Yes.
What are some other examples?
Think about relationships.
Uh-huh.
You could say the couple had a disagreement about how to discipline their children,
Mm-hmm.
or On a global scale, the two countries were in disagreement over trade policies.
It seems like disagreements are inevitable in life, whether they're big or small.
They are.
What's important is how we handle them.
Absolutely.
Okay, on to our next word.
Let's delve into disappoint.
Disappoint.
This verb describes what happens when someone's hopes or expectations aren't met,
Okay.
often leading to feelings of sadness or frustration.
Oh, I know this feeling all too well.
We've all been there.
We've all been there.
Yes.
Can you grace a sentence that captures that feeling of disappointment?
Think about a concert you were looking forward to.
Okay.
You could say, I was disappointed when the concert was canceled due to bad weather.
Ugh. Yes, that's the worst.
Yeah.
What are some other situations where disappoint might come up?
Think about sports.
Okay.
You could say the team's performance disappointed their fans who had high hopes for a victory, or he didn't want to disappoint his parents by failing his exams.
Disappoint, a word that unfortunately comes up quite often in life.
It does.
But as they say, sometimes we learn the most from our disappointments.
That's true.
All right, ready for our next word.
Let's look at disappointment, which is simply the noun form of disappoint.
Okay.
It describes the feeling itself.
Okay, so it's the emotional state
Yes,
that results from having our expectations dashed.
that's right.
Can you give us some examples of how disappointment might be expressed?
You could say her face fell with disappointment when she didn't get the job offer. Or think about a canceled event. The cancellation of the festival was a huge disappointment for the organizers and attendees.
Yes. Disappointment can be a real downer.
It can.
Okay, let's move on to our next word. Hopefully it's a bit more uplifting.
Let's hope so.
Okay.
Our next word is disastrous.
Disastrous. Ooh, that one sounds intense.
It is.
I'm guessing it's not just about something going wrong.
Right.
But something going really wrong.
You're exactly right.
Okay.
Disastrous describes something that causes great damage or harm, often with severe consequences.
Okay.
It's a word we use for major accidents, natural disasters, or situations with serious negative outcomes.
Okay, so definitely not a word you want to use every day.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of how disastrous might be used in real-world situations?
Think about a natural disaster.
Okay.
You might say the hurricane had a disastrous impact on the coastal communities. Or in a business context, the company's decision to invest in that project turned out to be disastrous, leading to significant financial losses.
I see. So disastrous is reserved for situations with severe
Yes.
and lasting negative impacts.
Right.
Okay, let's shift gears to a slightly lighter word.
Okay.
What's next on our list?
Let's explore discard.
Discard. Okay, I'm getting a sense of getting rid of something, like throwing it away.
Yes.
Am I on the right track?
You are.
Okay.
Discard means to get rid of something you no longer need or want.
Okay.
It could be a physical object, an idea, or even a feeling.
So it's about letting go of things that no longer serve us.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of how discard might be used in different contexts?
Imagine you're cleaning out your closet.
Okay.
You could say, I discarded all the clothes that no longer fit me.
A great way to declutter.
Yeah.
What are some other ways discard might be used?
In a card game, the player discarded a low card from his hand. Or she discarded the idea of going to graduate school after realizing it wasn't the right path for her.
I see. So discard can be used for both tangible and intangible things.
Absolutely.
It's about making choices and letting go of what we no longer need.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next on our vocabulary adventure?
Let's move on to discharge.
Discharge.
This word can be a bit tricky.
Okay.
Because it has multiple meanings, so context is really important here.
Ooh, I love a good word challenge.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
One meaning of discharge is to release a substance like a liquid or gas.
Okay.
For example, the factory was fined for discharging pollutants into the river.
Okay, so that's a serious example of discharge.
Yeah.
With negative consequences for the environment.
Uh-huh.
What are some other ways discharge might be used?
Discharge can also mean to officially release someone from a hospital or the military.
Okay.
You might say the patient was discharged from the hospital after making a full recovery.
Okay.
Or the soldier was honorably discharged from the army after serving for 20 years.
Wow. So discharge can have very different meanings depending on the situation.
It can.
It's all about paying attention to the context. Okay, what's our next word?
Let's explore disclose.
Disclose. I'm sensing a bit of mystery with this one.
Right.
Like revealing something that was hidden.
You are on the right track.
Okay.
Disclose means to reveal information that was previously secret or unknown.
Okay.
It can be used for personal secrets, confidential information, or anything that was kept under wraps.
So it's about bringing things out into the open.
Exactly.
Can you give us some examples of how disclose might be used in different scenarios?
Imagine you're a journalist working on a big story.
Okay.
You might say the whistleblower decided to disclose confidential information about the company's illegal activities.
That's a juicy example.
It is.
What are some other ways disclose might come up?
Think about relationships. You might say he was hesitant to disclose his true feelings to her.
Okay.
Or in a legal context, the company was required to disclose its financial records to the authorities.
So disclose is all about transparency.
Yes.
And revealing what was once hidden.
Uh-huh.
All right, ready for our next word?
Let's delve into discourage.
Okay, I'm getting a sense of negativity from this word.
Okay.
Like when someone tries to dampen your enthusiasm.
Yes.
Or prevent you from doing something.
Right, yeah.
Am I close?
You are. Discourage means to make someone less confident or enthusiastic about something.
Okay.
It can also mean to try to prevent something from happening.
So it's about throwing up roadblocks.
Yeah.
Or creating doubt.
Yes.
Can you give us some examples of how discourage might be used in different situations?
Imagine a parent talking to their child.
Okay.
They might say, I want to encourage your creativity, but I also want to discourage you from dropping out of school to pursue your art career full-time.
Okay. So it's about providing guidance.
Yeah.
And setting boundaries, even if it means dampening someone's initial enthusiasm.
That's right.
What are some other ways discourage might come up?
Think about safety warnings.
Okay.
You might see a sign that says, this sign is here to discourage swimming in this area due to strong currents. Or in a business context, the company tried to discourage employees from forming a union.
Discourage. It's a word that's sometimes necessary.
Right.
Even if it's not always pleasant.
It's true.
Okay. What's next on our list?
Let's move on to discourse.
Discourse. This one sounds a bit academic.
It does.
Am I sensing a theme here?
You are okay.
Okay.
Discourse refers to written or spoken communication.
Right.
But it's often used to describe communication that is formal, serious, and delves into complex topics.
Okay.
Think academic discussions, political debates, or philosophical arguments.
So it's not just casual conversation.
Right.
But a more elevated form of communication.
Exactly.
Can you give us some examples of discourse in action?
You might say the university hosted a public discourse on the ethics of artificial intelligence.
Okay, so a forum for intellectual debate.
Yes.
What are some other ways discourse might be used?
The book offers a fascinating discourse on the history of feminist thought.
Okay.
Or the political discourse in the country had become increasingly polarized in recent years.
So discourse is a word for those conversations that really make you think and challenge your perspectives.
It is.
I like it.
Okay.
What's up next?
Let's explore discretion.
Discretion. I'm getting a sense of careful judgment.
Okay.
And maybe a bit of secrecy.
You are on the right track.
Okay.
Discretion refers to the ability to make good judgments and to behave in a way that avoids causing offense or revealing private information.
Okay.
It's about being tactful, respectful, and knowing when to speak up and when to stay silent.
So it's a delicate balance of wisdom and restraint.
It is.
I like it. Can you give us some examples of how discretion might play out in real life?
Imagine you're a doctor talking to a patient.
Okay.
You might say, I'll leave the final decision to your discretion, but I advise you to consider all the options carefully.
Okay. So giving someone the power to choose.
What
while also providing guidance.
Exactly.
What are some other ways discretion might be used?
The journalist promised to treat the source's information with the utmost discretion. Or in a professional setting, it is important to use discretion when sharing confidential company information.
Discretion, it's like a superpower for navigating sensitive situations with grace.
Yes.
Okay, what's next on our vocabulary journey?
Let's move on to discrimination.
Discrimination.
This is a word with a lot of weight.
Absolutely.
Important to understand clearly.
I'm ready to learn more.
Discrimination refers to the unfair or prejudicial treatment of people and groups.
Okay.
Based on characteristics like race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, or disability. It's about treating people differently based on these attributes rather than on their individual merits.
So it's about prejudice and bias.
Yes.
Leading to harmful actions.
That's right.
Can you give us some examples of how discrimination might manifest in society?
You might say the company was accused of discrimination in its hiring practices.
Okay.
Favoring male candidates over equally qualified female candidates.
Okay, so that's an example of gender discrimination.
Yes.
In the workplace.
In the work.
What are some other ways discrimination might be experienced?
Think about housing.
Okay.
You might hear the couple face discrimination when trying to rent an apartment because of their race. Or the organization fights against discrimination based on sexual orientation, advocating for equal rights for LGBTQ plus individuals.
It's clear that discrimination is a serious issue that affects many people.
It is.
It's important to recognize it and challenge it whenever we see it.
Absolutely.
All right, what's our next word?
Let's look at dismissal.
Dismissal? I'm immediately thinking about getting fired from a job.
Okay.
Is that one of the meanings?
You're right on.
Okay.
Dismissal can refer to being fired from a job.
Okay.
You might say the employee's dismissal came as a shock to the entire team.
Okay, so that's the end of employment.
Right.
Are there any other ways dismissal might be used?
Dismissal can also mean to reject an idea.
Okay.
Or to treat something as unimportant.
Okay.
You might say the judge dismissed the case due to lack of evidence. Or in a more casual setting, she dismissed his apology, believing it wasn't sincere.
So dismissal can be used for people, ideas, or even apologies.
That's right.
It's about rejection and disregarding something.
Yes.
Okay, ready for our next word?
Let's explore disorder.
Disorder.
This one has a couple of different meanings as well.
Ooh, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Okay.
English words love to have multiple personalities.
They do.
Yeah.
So firstly, disorder can refer to a lack of order or organization.
Okay.
You might say the children left the playroom in complete disorder after their play date.
Ah, yes, the dreaded post-playdate chaos.
It is.
Yeah, what's the other meaning of disorder?
Disorder can also refer to a medical condition that disrupts normal physical or mental functions.
Okay.
You might say the doctor diagnosed her with a sleep disorder that was affecting her quality of life.
Okay, so it can have both a literal and a figurative meaning.
That's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are some other ways disorder might be used?
Think about social unrest. You could say the protests led to public disorder in the city center.
Okay.
Or in a psychological context, he struggled with an anxiety disorder that made it difficult for him to socialize.
So disorder can describe anything from a messy room to a serious medical condition.
Yes.
Context is everything.
It is.
All right, what's our next word?
Let's move on to displace.
Displace. I'm getting a sense of movement.
Okay.
Like being forced to move from your home or usual place. Am I close?
Displace means to force someone or something to move from their usual or proper place.
Okay.
It's often used in the context of migration war or natural disasters.
So it's about being uprooted, often against your will.
Exactly.
Can you give us some examples of how displace might be used in real-world situations?
Think about a natural disaster.
Okay.
You could say the earthquake displaced thousands of people, forcing them to seek shelter in temporary camps.
That's a heartbreaking example.
It is.
What are some other ways displace might be used?
Think about technology. You might say the rise of automation displaced many factory workers, leading to job losses in the manufacturing sector.
Oh.
Or the invading army displaced the local population, forcing them to flee their homes.
So displace is a powerful word that captures the upheaval
Yes.
and disruption that can occur in many different situations.
Absolutely.
Okay. Ready for our next word.
Let's delve into disposal.
Disposal. Okay, I'm thinking about getting rid of things,
Uh-huh.
like taking out the trash.
Yes,
Am I on the right track?
you are.
Okay.
Disposal refers to the act of getting rid of something,
Okay.
usually by throwing it away or destroying it.
So it's the process of saying goodbye to things we no longer need.
It is.
Could you give us some examples of how disposal might be used?
Think about household chores.
Okay.
You might say the city has a new waste disposal system that is more environmentally friendly.
Okay, so disposal can be used in the context of everyday life.
Yeah.
What are some other ways it might come up?
The company was responsible for the safe disposal of hazardous materials. Or, in a more personal context, after the breakup, she decided to gather all his belongings and put them at his disposal.
So disposal can refer to getting rid of physical objects
Uh-huh.
or even ending a relationship.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, ready for our next word challenge?
Let's explore dispose.
Dispose. This sounds very similar to disposal.
Yes.
Is there a connection?
You're right to notice that dispose is the verb form of disposal.
Okay.
It simply means to get rid of something.
Okay, so disposal is the act and dispose is the action.
Yes.
Got it. Can you give us some examples of how dispose might be used in sentences?
Imagine you're finished with a meal.
Okay.
You might say, please dispose of your trash in the bins provided.
Uh-huh.
Or he was forced to dispose of his assets to pay off his debts.
So dispose is a versatile verb that can be used for both mundane
Right.
and serious matters.
That's right.
All right, what's up next?
Let's move on to dispute.
Dispute. Okay, I'm sensing some conflict with this word,
Okay.
like a serious disagreement or argument.
Uh-huh.
Am I on the right track?
You are.
All right.
Dispute refers to a disagreement, argument, or debate,
Okay.
especially one that is serious and prolonged.
Okay.
It can be between individuals, groups, or even countries.
So it's a step up from a casual disagreement.
Yes,
It suggests a more formal or entrenched conflict.
that's right.
Can you give us some examples of how dispute might be used in different contexts?
Think about international relations.
Okay.
You might read in a news article the two countries were locked in a bitter territorial dispute.
Okay.
Or the labor union and management were unable to resolve their dispute over wages and working conditions.
So dispute is a word for those disagreements that can have serious consequences.
It is.
Okay. Ready for our next word?
Let's look at disrupt.
Disrupt. Okay. I'm getting a sense of interruption
Okay.
and chaos,
Mm-hmm.
like throwing a wrench into the gears.
You're exactly right.
Okay.
Disrupt means to interrupt something or to cause confusion and disorder. It can be used for anything, from a peaceful protest to a natural disaster.
So it's about shaking things up.
Yes,
Sometimes intentionally and sometimes unexpectedly.
that's right.
Can you give us some examples of how disrupt might be used in different scenarios?
Imagine a group of protesters.
Okay.
You might say the protesters disrupted the meeting by chanting slogans and holding signs.
Okay, so a planned disruption to make a statement.
Exactly.
What are some other ways disrupt might come up?
Think about technology.
Okay.
You could say the internet has disrupted traditional business models, forcing companies to adapt to a new digital landscape. Or the storm disrupted travel plans, causing flight cancellations and delays.
So disrupt can describe anything from a minor inconvenience to a major upheaval.
It can?
It's a word that captures the unpredictable nature of life.
Yes.
Okay, what's up next?
Let's explore disruption, which is the noun form of disrupt.
Okay.
It describes the act of interrupting something or causing disorder.
Okay, so it's the event or action
Uh-huh.
that creates the disruption.
Yes.
Can you give us some examples of how disruption might be used?
Think about a traffic jam.
Okay.
You might say the accident caused a major disruption in traffic, delaying commuters for hours.
Oh.
Or the company's new CEO promised to lead the company through a period of disruption and innovation.
I see. So disruption can be negative or positive.
Yes. Host speaker.